I'll call this meeting to order, and we will have the invocation by the Reverend Zimmer. If everybody would please rise and turn off your cell phones, pages, and whatnot.
Well, that's great. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the opportunities we have here in Alpine to do your work and will. We meet tonight at the City Council to make important decisions that affect not only us today, but those in the future. We ask that you give us guidance and love in this situation. We ask your blessings upon the council members, upon the mayor, upon our community, and upon the people here this evening. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. We'll have the pledge now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take this flag, please.
City Secretary, we'll have a quorum.
Mayor, we do have a quorum with an unexcused absence from Councilor Fitzgerald, and the notice was posted at 1 p.m. on March 16, 2018.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no recognitions or presentations and proclamations, so we'll move on to City Mayor report. I have none. City Manager, you have none.
I have none, but we do have staff updates.
Okay, and then we go to the city staff updates.
First, we have the quarterly report from the Visitor Center by Ellen Melvin, who's our tourism coordinator.
Hi, everybody. First off, our end of the quarter ended in December for this quarter that I'm working on. And we had 513 less people come in than we did in 2016. But I'm not sure how accurate 2016 records were, because that was when the chamber still had it. And their figures don't match the paperwork that I still have. I don't know if they took some with them, but the figures don't match. We've been pretty busy the last several months. We've started doing pop-up visitor centers at the different events for that are going on in town. We did one for Heart of the Arts. We did one for the Cowboy Portrait Gathering. We had a lot of people come by and get brochures and talk about how Alpine had improved, and that they were happy to have the brochures up there available instead of having to go look for places to eat and things like that. I had about 1,000 people come by the table, and I gave out about 300 brochures at Cowboy Portrait Gathering. We are, last week was a busy week. Spring break was here. We had 602 people come to the visitor center last week. And so our total for March is just 20 less than what January and February combined were so far. So it's been good so far. It's been a good year. So I'm looking forward to getting better as we go on.
And I want to compliment you, because I talked to some tourists and they were real happy that when they went to the visitor center, there was updated brochures there, very informative and things like that. So great job.
Hello. Hi there. I'm Chris Ruggia. I assist Ellen in certain ways. My title at the moment is Creative Director for Tourism Promotion. We developed that when Stuart Ramser was here, and he needed a title when he went to a TACVB conference. So he picked Tourism Director, and I picked Creative Director, and that's where we're at the moment. For any of you who do not know, what I primarily do is administer and carry out the general tourism promotion plan line item that you guys approve each year under the hotel occupancy tax. And that is primarily making ads. And so in the report that's in your packet, since I haven't reported to you all since the fiscal year began, I included everything that we had run since the start of the fiscal year to now. And the first page is our print ads. The second page is digital, and then the third page is kind of a grab bag of lots of other projects and activities that I carry forward on a general basis. Let's see. Last year's hotel occupancy tax collections, as you know, were far above what they had been in previous years. And so the overall budget for promotion went up. And Stuart and I were instructed by Eric to come up with some larger, more ambitious promotional proposals. And so most of the magazines, the smaller ones, not Texas Monthly and Southwest, these are the much higher dollar things, but the more, the ones like, let's see, Austin Monthly, Ride Texas, San Antonio, Texas Music, and Authentic Texas, we had been doing half-page ads in those and had enough money to go up to a full page. One of the things that always bothered me about half-page ads was that they tend to get paired with another ad, and you don't get paired with a half page of editorial where somebody's hanging out on that page and reading your ad. So that always bothered me a little. And going up to a full page, in a way, you have the same problem. If you fill a page with an ad, the eye just scans past it. And so what we're trying this year is combining within the full page that we bought, we're combining a 2/3 page display ad with a column of advertorial where we can write a little feature article. It says advertisement at the top in little letters, but it's content that people can read about whatever is relevant to the magazine that's happening in Alpine at the time that that magazine comes out. And it's just completely subjective, but it feels to me much more effective. The eye stops at that column. It is clear that it's a sponsored message, but I honestly try and make it a little bit ambiguous, so somebody will stop and maybe think that it's from the magazine. It's part and parcel of the kind of material they'd be reading in that magazine and give them good information. So that's something that's new that I'm really pleased with how that's going. Another really big new thing for us was the Southwest magazine, which is by far the highest number of eyeballs that are getting on anything else that we do. We had enough money in the budget to get 1/3 page in a year, and that was some $21,000 for one ad. Now, they claim that 5.5 million people will see that ad and that it's worth it, but still, that's a lot of money, and that any other year, we wouldn't have even thought about buying one ad for those kind of dollars. But Stuart actually had a relationship with the Austin Monthly ad salespeople, and one of them had a relationship with the ad people at Southwest magazine. And so we wound up being able to buy 2 ads because they cut the price. We're paying 33% roughly. We're paying about $7,400 per ad instead of $21,000. So that's great. We got 2 of them. We ran the first one already in March, and the second one I was going to do a little later in the year, but they offered us an editorial value ad for April. They're doing a special Texas destinations program. And so Alpine will have a little write-up in that editorial section with our 3rd page ad in the April issue. So that's new to us. We started, I'd say the last quarter of the last fiscal year, started doing a co-op ad program with Brewster County and MARPA in Ride Texas, which is a motorcycle focused magazine. And we had been doing a half page in that, and then we combined with those 2 partners to do a full page. And that was the first time I tried the advertorial model, where we've got a big photo promoting the Texas mountains and identifying the 3 partners, and then we have a little featurette with a map of great rides through the region that serve us all. You know, it's basically they all come through Alpine. One of them heads down to Presidio. One of them is a little triangle marked Fort Davis Alpine, and one is through the national park, the loop in the middle of the Big Bend, which is what Brewster County really wants to promote. So we've been doing that co-op, that relationship with both Marfa and Brewster County is going really well. Jessica actually had a meeting really recently. Scott McGeehee is Martha's counterpart to me, and he lives in Austin, and he was coming to the area. So we got to sit down with Robert Alvarez from Brewster County and Scott McGeehee and Jessica and myself to fill her in on and throw some ideas around on what we might do in the future. So that's also going well. Let's see. A lot of what I'm doing is social media content. I'm posting 1 to 3 times a day on Facebook, probably 5 times a week on Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest. The majority of the content that I'm posting is photos that we get from our annual photo contest, which we did our 7th in 2017. Got about, let's see, I gave you the numbers on my 3rd page, if I can find them. We had 324 photos from 101 photographers. The number of photographs is actually down a little for the 7th year, but the same number of photographers, and I thought the quality was higher, so it works out. I still have enough photos to share one almost every day through the whole year and never repeat ourselves. So that's really successful, cost-effective way to get our social media content. And so that's a lot of what we're doing with social media, as well as promoting every event I can find out about. I'll promote on Facebook and Twitter. Let's see. We have an increased budget for social media ads as well, so I'm doing a lot more aggressive, not the word, but a lot more frequent Facebook ads, and I have the budget. Well, you all have the budget to offer that Facebook ad presence to every event that we support, and so that's one way that, since I'm working it every day anyway on Facebook, I can assist our events. If they don't have a page or they don't have an event page on Facebook for their event, I can help them make one, and then I can put a small amount of dollars that can still get them, 30,000 views or something like that we can just offer without them having to spend their appropriation or worry about how to make that happen. So that is also going pretty well. Let's see. I tried to give you, Jessica suggested that I give you as many numbers as possible. So on each of the projects that we did, I put the circulation or readership, whichever number the publication will give us. And then where I had analytics for the different web ads and things, I have put those in place and putting in requests to the publications that haven't shared that data yet to get that to me. And other than those things, I support the events, like I said, with the Facebook stuff, but in any way I can. What I've been trying to do is meet with every funded events organizer at least 3 months, if not 6, before their event, so that we can talk about the promotion plan. And if there's anything I can provide them in the way of planning assistance, I'll do that. There's a lot of our events that just don't need that. They've been doing this enough. They know their market. I stay out of their way and just let them know that I'm there to help them as needed. But I've been more able to meet with more of them earlier this year. And so I'm pleased with that. That's going pretty well. Other than that, as things arise that are tourism specific, if Jessica gets an email or has a question about anything, one of the things we're working on right now is wayfinding signage, working on some requests to TxDOT to increase. We identify the locations that would be of tourist interest, and then inventory the signs that would direct people to that. Like, for example, the Museum of the Big Bend is amply signed in that there's 2 signs from every direction coming into town, and then there's a big sign right as you reach Sil Ross coming in from the east. But there's no sign at Harrison telling you exact where you actually turn to get there. Now, it does just direct you to Ellen at the visitor center, and she'll be happy to tell you. But it'd be great if we could get a sign right at that turn. So, so we had a work group recently that got together and reviewed a draft set of suggestions or requests to pass on to TxDOT, and so we're working on that. That's ongoing. And then on my other activities list, you'll see there's a pretty wide range of just day-to-day randomness, tourism specific, that I'm working on as it arises. So, do any of you have any questions at all?
I saw the posting, someone posted on my Facebook on the pictures from all the employees and stuff like that, which was awesome.
Yes.
And so I put it out, and went into Chicago, San Antonio, Austin, a lot of positive on that.
Excellent.
And I had 2 that were negative. It says, don't give away my little gem. So, you know, it was good, you know, good advertisement. And
I do take what we do really seriously, and our quality of life. It is something that I do think about, honestly, is I try to be, our vision when I started this with Victor Noriega was partnered with me and helped with the messaging and copy when I first started doing this in 2009. And our mission was to be completely honest, to put the best face on what's here, because for one thing, we don't ever want somebody to come and have an expectation that isn't met. You know, so it's that under promise, over deliver sort of model. But also, we want to be sure that the people who come are the people who are going to love it here, who are going to appreciate what Alpine actually is. And it's honestly, it is a concern of mine that we'll do too good of a job and negatively affect our quality of life somehow.
you know, like they say, one picture says 1,000 words, and the pictures you posted do say that.
Well, thank you.
Because it does, the surroundings around Alpine, which is also the mountains, you know, the valleys and thoroughfares and whatnot. So no words added to it, just the picture. Real plain and simple.
Thanks.
Good job.
Are there any other questions about
A
this?
couple questions. So, Chris, how are you measuring the effectiveness of print ad versus digital?
Well, digital is much easier because there's numbers attached and they track everything. And
Yeah.
so honestly, we're what you might call calling a heuristic approach to print ads. We're making our best guess. As to the publication, what's the fit for the publication in terms of the audience we're trying to reach and where they are. We look at the cost per 1,000 readership and in terms of determining what's a good buy. For the co-ops, for Ride Texas, we have experimented with each different publication. We tried it in San Antonio Magazine and in Ride Texas, but primarily Ride Texas. We got a URL, bikebigbend.com, specifically for that ad in that publication. And then as part of Martha's contribution, Scott McGee's company made a little landing page that collects, you know, the people. It's just mainly links to our websites and a form for if you'd like further information, so that we could track that. Our initial attempts on those were really popular. Not very many people filled out the form, and so that may be a question of brand penetration, because this 3-part partnership, we're branding the mountains of West Texas, and that brand, that visual, those things that might be unfamiliar, and that might be an explanation. Another thing might be that landing page doesn't have a lot of information on it. It's really just asking people for stuff, and they might get there and go, well, no, and leave. So it's an ongoing conundrum and always will be. But that's one thing we thought of that so far hasn't worked all that well.
Are you working with Ellen so that when someone comes to the visitor center, you're getting data about it, drill them to Alpine?
We're working on improving that. We have an iPad survey that in that survey, but of course the iPad's down right now. I have to go back in. We have to troubleshoot it and get it working. So we have a paper survey that doesn't yet have a list of every publication. So the iPad survey, when that's back up, every single one of these publications is listed in a checkbox. If you say, we ask, how did you find out about Alpine, or where did you see mention of Alpine? And if they say a publication, then a drop down shows up and they list everything we advertise in. So that will be a better source going forward.
What's your split? little background, I am the chair of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society publication company. We have a company, we publish magazines. And we made a huge shift in our print versus digital because that's where the world's going. And that was all driven by our customers and those that put ads with us, which is several $1 million a year. So we're now kind of like a third print, 2/3 digital. What's your split on cost in terms of your ad?
On cost, we're probably looking at 4/5 print, just because print is so much more expensive. Digital is a lot cheaper for the same number of eyes. When we approach new publications, like we identified, the committee that was putting the line items together identified several new markets, and Houston and Dallas were one. And so we thought that the magazines associated with those metro areas were a good starting point for those markets. And so we went to D magazine. But for them, when I talked about what can you give us for the dollars we have, which are modest in terms of print, we wound up going with this purely digital thing. And we're going to, in the summertime, we're going to do a web feature on the photo contest where we'll have a gallery of photos from the contest. And so we're definitely headed in that direction, but I wouldn't be surprised if our actual spend on print stays higher, just because we have a small budget and ads are print just cost a lot. If we want to have any of them, they're going to probably take that bigger chunk of the cost.
Okay, that's why I asked the question about where you get the return out of it. Tough to go over, but
yeah, it's always hard to track. And I'd be very open to any workshopping that you wanted to do on that question, because to be very honest, my background is in the graphic arts. You know, I can work Excel, but I'm not a statistician, and so I would be very open to some suggestions on tracking that.
yeah, I'll talk to our folks who do all of our metrics and measures. We just had a board meeting on Sunday, and I'll talk to them and get some feedback to give you some insights about here's where at least a print company is driving that, which is their print and digital publication company.
Yeah, and in that light as well as just in this report, now or later, anytime in the next quarter, if you guys give Jessica or myself feedback on what you want to see in these reports, and in particular, Rick, along those lines, if you give me feedback on the kinds of metrics that you want to see in performance stats, then that's what I'll work towards.
Okay.
I would like to see how much the ads are costing for the next.
You bet. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
curiosity.
I gave you one side of the numbers, another. Yeah, sure.
And are you the webmaster for Visit Alpine?
For Visit Alpine,
Okay,
yes.
great. Thanks.
And if any of you see a listing on there that's out of date, or a new business that's open that I haven't got to yet, give me a shout for sure.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Mayor, next we have a quarterly report from the Airport Advisory Board by Chair Kip Engel. He's not.
Right, so we'll get it through on.
The February 2018 monthly revenue expense report by Megan Antrim, the Director of Finance.
She is here. She lives here. Okay. So looking at February. I'm going to just kind of shorten it a little bit more and just hit the highlights. So for the general fund, as of February 28th, we have collected 59% of our revenue, which is $2,703,216. So that is actually right on track. We do, of course, get most of our property taxes. That has significantly dropped. Now the people who are paying taxes are, of course, on the penalty side. They are considered late in March. On our sales, or on our property tax at the end of February, we had collected 90% of what we had budgeted, which was $1,487,660. On our sales tax and franchise fees, we collected $762,586, which is 42%. So that is really good. On our expenditures, we're only at 33% of our budget. We have only spent $1,478,175. I should use the word only. I apologize. only. A lot of our expenses come during the summer with our street department, so we haven't acknowledged those yet as we are just in March. Our employee expenses at the end of February were 39% of the total expense, which was $993,306. Our sales tax for the month actually collected or reported was for December. So we got December's sales tax payment in February. It was actually a decrease from the February or December prior by 19%. We only brought in $148,042. I just love that word only. For the month of December, which we collected in February. So I wanted to point that out because we do rely heavily on our sales tax and property taxes.
So on that point, Megan, though, if you looked across fiscal year, this year compared to last year, you're pretty well close on that because you had a big spike in October start.
Correct. So if you're looking at the actual graph, you'll see there's slight fluctuations between, but overall it balances.
Yeah.
So we're actually doing fairly well, but it is something to just keep in the back of your mind, encourage people to shop locally.
Yeah.
We want them to spend their money. So the one that I keep monitoring the most is our hotel motel funds. I know the past couple months I've continued to say that we're decreasing. We did have an increase for February. So February's taxes are the hotels that report for January's stays. So we increased by 92%, but I don't want that to mislead you. Last year we collected $20,000 for the month of February, and this year we collected $44,000. It's still a decrease from where we were at last fiscal year. So last fiscal year, at the end of February, we had brought in $362,724. At the end of this year, or for February, total we have brought in $294,846. So we're down from last year by $67,878. So it's a pretty big difference. We did set aside contingency, but we actually only set aside $48,629. So budget-wise, we're still technically short by a little over $19,000 if we continue with the trend we are currently on.
And how much was available from last year rollover for use this year?
200 and I'm not gonna be able to tell you the exact number. It's close to 300,000.
Close to 300,000. So the good news is there was money left over. So if we look going forward, even if we stay with the current, we have $100,000 less in revenue this year against our budget of 700,000. If we had 600,000, we still have the cushion, so we can fund what we've committed to. But in terms of planning going forward, we have to be much more conservative this next year.
So that is the big thing, is all the extras, to be very careful, because we have committed to so much, but it may hit our fund balance and we may have to use those reserves. That's the hotel.
Maybe. I think Chris had something to ask.
No? Oh, yes. When last year's collections were much higher than any previous year, and we chalked that up largely to pipeline activity as well as our promotion success. Overall, the line trends up, and so one thing I think would be interesting to see would be comparing to 2 years ago and see where we're at relative to that, because I do believe last year was anomalously high.
Good point.
So I can tell you the number from 2015 to 16. At the end of February, we were at 202,218. So we are still higher than prior, but as Chris pointed out, we're nothing compared to where we were last year. Okay, so in the water, solid waste, and sanitation fund, our revenues were at 40% for the year, with $1,750,104 being brought in. Our expenditures are at also 40%. So basically what's been brought in has been spent at $1,710,056. Our airport, total revenues for the up to February 28th is 263,841. We have collected 90% of the lease payments. Those are all due in January. We got a few stragglers in February. The only ones remaining are the ones that are scheduled to pay monthly. Our expenditures are 235,585, and that's 42% of what's been budgeted. And of course, a good portion of that is the fuel. So our hotel motel, for the year, we brought in 294,846, and I do want to just make sure that there's that little note with the miscellaneous. That was money brought back to the city from the chamber, so it's not part of the tax collections. So that kind of throws it off. You go, oh, we're 42%. Well, a portion of that is actually not taxes collected. Our expenditures for the year are 126,781, which is only 18%. We have several of the events that have not submitted any reimbursements. A lot of them will take place in these upcoming months. Theater, the Big Ben, the Alpine Cowboys. So those are expenditures that have yet to be even paid out or considered. We'll send out friendly reminders asking please submit so we know where we're at on our expenses. Our gas department for the year has brought in $972,828, which is 56% of the budget. For the next meeting, I'll show you a little bit of a comparison. We've had warmer months, so we haven't had that hard, cold winter like we had anticipated in the past and the future. So their revenue is actually a little short. Of course, we did budget accordingly that we knew that we wouldn't have these winters, but it is something to take into consideration because now that we are in March, the months unfortunately will become a lot warmer and gas usage will drop considerably. Their expenditures for the year is $535,866, which is 32% of what's been budgeted.
So Megan, have you had a chance to look at the analysis, play that out, looking at overhead from the gas department against projected revenues? You expect to at least break even, or you expect to make some profit in gas this year?
I haven't really looked at it like in detail. When I do the reports, I take into consideration, you know, the long term, the forecasting side of it. I'm hoping we break even. I do know that we have an equity transfer that will have to take place fairly soon for the airport. So I take that in consideration and what that's going to overall do to their accounts and their final numbers. So I'm hoping that they won't break even and they'll actually have a profit because they are one of the only groups that does profit. So fingers crossed. I can do a little bit more research for you so next time you'll get a better.
My sense is you don't need to do it for next time. It's just when it's time for the equity transfer, it'll be helpful to understand your own analysis about when that falls in so we can make an informed decision.
Well, so the airport is up for approval on their construction for the big grant that the city approved. So as soon as Texas Aviation's Commission approves that, we're on the agenda April 4th for the public hearing, April 26th for final approval. Once they've submitted saying that yes, go ahead, update your airport, of course Texas Aviation will turn around and send us the bill. So they kind of want that up front. But that's
good.
The final item of interest is our interest in sinking. So February, we did make our debt payment, the first out of the two for the year. So their expenses was $486,193. That is just partial debt payment for this fiscal year. The remaining will be paid in September. Total revenues for the fiscal year is $557,022. So we have collected enough to pay all of our debt for the year. So that is awesome. We don't have to worry about anything. We just cut the checks. So overall, the city continues to stay on track. There's just more items of interest to pay closer attention to make sure as we move into the end of the fiscal year in the next quarter that we're continuing to be aware of some of the situations that might arise when it comes to the expenditure side.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our reports. We have no public hearings and the consent agenda. Minutes, financial reports, department written reports, board appointments. Notice to the public, the following items are of routine and administrative nature. The council has been furnished with background and supporting material on each item, or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by council member, in which event the item or items will immediately be withdrawn for individual consideration in its normal sequence after the items not requiring separate discussion has been acted upon. The remaining items will be adopted by one vote. City manager.
Mayor, you have the approval of minutes from city council meeting on February 20th, 2018 and March 6th, 2018.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Move we approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, is there been made and second? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor, vote for the minutes, raise your right hand, opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Thank you, sir. Now we'll move to information for discussion items and the quarterly reports. And city manager.
First up, we have the quarterly report from the Sunshine House by the executive director, Judy Ford.
I brought along a little show and tell. We'll talk about it in a minute. Thank you all for inviting me, and thank you for what you do for the Sunshine House. We couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for all of you helping us. When I first moved to Alpine 10 years ago, the Sunshine House was the best kept secret in Alpine. I had no idea they had a Meals on Wheels program. As soon as I found out they did, I got involved. So we're trying to change that image, and I think our new building will help us do that in a big way. The city has supported us for the last 40 years, and that's hard to believe that we've been doing that for that long. But we do appreciate your help. But we have just literally outgrown the building that we are in now, so we need more room. Our mission, the purpose of the Sunshine House Incorporated, is to nourish and enrich the lives of the homebound and other people in need by delivering one hot, nutritious meal each weekday to the home or in our facility while ensuring their individual well-being through personal contact. So that's our goal. That's what we want to do, and that's what we strive to do every day. Our annual budget for this year is $355,000. That comes from government reimbursement for meals as well as donations from our community. Every day, 5 days a week, we deliver about 120 meals to the homebound in Alpine. We also have anywhere from 30 to 35 individuals that come into the Sunshine House and eat lunch there. That sounds like a large number, but food insecurity for our senior citizens is a big deal. You and I might not think about that, but for some people, they are having to make a choice between food and medicine. So we want to be there to help give them the food that they need to keep them healthy. And by doing that, we help keep them healthy and in their homes. You'd much rather be in your home than in some institution somewhere. So that's what this does. And one of the facts that we point out is that we can provide a senior Meals on Wheels for 1 year for roughly what it costs for 1 day in the hospital. The other thing is because they're getting nutritious food, they're not as apt to fall and hurt themselves. So that also gives them strength that they need. We have 9 routes that we do each day. So every day we need 9 individuals to deliver those meals to these people. Some days it's a stretch to find those 9 people. And I would like to say that this week we're celebrating March for Meals, and that's because Richard Nixon signed on March the 22nd the bill in 1972, the bill that started including a hot nutritious meal for senior adults. So that's why we're focusing on March. Some of you have already been and have ridden with one of our drivers. Some of you are on schedule to come later in the week, and we appreciate that because you get to see where the tire meets the road when you go out with us. So we appreciate that very much. Our home delivered meals, we get reimbursed $4.95. It costs us about $6.50 to prepare those meals. We do get paid $6.12 for those individuals that are approved that come into our facility to eat. But that leaves us with a deficit of about $63,000 every year just to feed the people of Alpine. So you can see why your support is so necessary. In 2016, we received a donation for $100,000, and the board at that time decided we would set that aside for a new place for the Sunshine House. Little did we know that it was going to happen so quickly with lots of work. We were also given 2 lots in Double Diamond Veterans Edition. We were given another $80,000 to help with the renovation. So when the Christian school came up for sale, we decided that we were going to try to buy it because we had some reserves. We could pay a pretty good price for it and not have to borrow money. We had a contract on it, but a contract came in behind us for more money. We thought we'd lost it and that we wouldn't get it. But after several times that contract fell through, we went back with another contract and they accepted it. So on March the 6th of 2017, we signed. We're now the owners of that building. And all of you I know have heard, we're working, we're needing money. We are trying to get money from anybody and everybody that will help us. The budget for that project, the renovation, is that's the price in the renovation is $833,000. As of today, we are probably about $20,000 away from reaching that budget. But there's still work to be done. The building has no steps, first of all. That's the most exciting thing because we have no steps for our seniors to encounter. This area right here, well, if you would like to, that would be fine. Okay. This area right here used to be both the men, women, and the janitorial area. That is now going to be the women's ADA restroom. This was just an office, which has now been made into the men's restroom. There were 2 small restrooms down here, which have now been combined to make one ADA restroom. It will open into our community room, which can be used by anybody in town that needs a place to meet or hold an activity. Our kitchen takes up this area right here, which will be a totally new kitchen because it did not have the building didn't have a kitchen. Our office area is going to be over here. When you walk in the front door or the back door, we're going to have our library along those walls so you can see the books that we have. This area will be a computer lab with 6 computers. Of course, this will be dining, and this can also be dining. We also have a room specially for our quilting ladies. Our quilting ladies meet twice a week and they work making quilts. They give the Sunshine House everything they make. I have to brag on them. Last year they gave us $4,000. So I think they deserve a room to do their quilting here. Everything is going along on track, except I do have a request. At the present time, we're on hold, and we have been for several weeks. That hold is the fact that we don't have an inspector to inspect our project so we can move forward. So I would just ask that you consider what you can do to help us with this little project. I thank you for your time. Does anybody have any questions?
Great job, and we'll see them all.
Okay. Oh, and we're planning on moving in June. I'll let you know. if everything goes well, that's when we'll move. Thank you.
And they do a great job. She made a comment just now about nutrition and health. they both go hand in hand. A lot of folks don't realize that if you have nutritional meal, you stay out of the hospital or you don't get as sick as often as one that's not eaten properly. So they do a fantastic job in Alpine. Thank you. City Manager.
And next, we have the quarterly report for First Flight by Director of Medical Operations, Greg.
How are y'all? Thank you for letting me count. I think you have the numbers in front of you. So I have on here our fourth quarter report, and then currently January and February. For fourth quarter, you see our Brown unit made 25 transports out of Alpine, total of 69 for air, and we missed 13. The reason we had misses is we're already on flight, or on a ground transport, or weather, or we're tied up backing up another day. And then in January, we had a total of 8 ground transports with 34 air with 3 misses. In February, 5 ground with 33 air and 1 miss. So it's been a steady pace. So we're glad to be here.
So Red, we've not seen the discussion about misses before. How do people get covered when there's a miss? Because I know you guys get fogged or whatever.
A lot of times, depending on weather, we wait till the weather clears and then take them. But we count it as a miss because we couldn't do it right now.
Okay.
Or we have to move another aircraft here or another ground unit here.
Okay, so your definition of misses, couldn't do it
Right.
on schedule right then, but you do get it picked up.
Right.
Any
Any questions?
Have your ground transportation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. And next we'll have Councilman Williams.
Mayor and fellow councilors, at this time I'd like to table this particular discussion item and pending further information gathering, and at the same time try to put together a nice audiovisual program.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Table item C. Thank you, sir. Okay, let's move on to the action items. To be accommodated by the statement of facts, including where the funds are coming from, if applicable. Action items limited up to 10 per meeting. Citizens are allowed to comment, limited to 3 minutes after being called upon by the mayor. Citizens are required to state their name and the ward in which they reside. Priority will be given to citizens of Alpine and those who own business or property in the city. Individuals who do not live in, own business, or property in the city limits of Alpine will be allowed to speak if it's time available. And can you go to city manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 8 is discuss and consider authorization of the fiscal year 2018 West Texas High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Grant for the city of Alpine and the Alpine Police Department for the first portion in the amount of $46,083. This is a grant that the city of Alpine has received for multiple years, and this is just a continuation for this year's.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the authorization for fiscal year 2018 West Texas HINTA grant for the city of Alpine and Alpine Police Department, the first portion amount of $46,083.
So is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made, second. Any discussion?
I have a question, just to confirm my receipts in the budget.
Yes.
Thank you for reading.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. $46,000 grant. Okay. Item 9. This would be Council Member Curry.
This is to discuss and consider approving 1 animal permit for 1 miniature horse as recommended by the Animal Advisory Board. The horse is located at 1106 East Avenue J, Alpine, Texas. The applicant is Cheryl Cookins. And there's a little bit of information here. She has a little miniature horse. I think he's a therapy horse. She takes him into, she has a little van that she takes all over the place and puts him in places. And pretty cute. And it's Gulliver. So
So you're making a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the, horse permit.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion made in second. Any discussion?
Have you met Gulliver?
I haven't met Gulliver, but I've seen pictures.
Okay.
And so the neighborhood's kosher with,
Mhm.
with the horse feed there.
I think I really like
Okay, well, good. Very cool. Okay, very nice.
that.
Okay. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and act on it. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. So, what's his name?
Gulliver.
Gulliver. Okay, it's over. Gulliver, welcome to the Alpine. Okay, let's move on to item number 10, and this would be Councilman Olivas.
There's a meeting that, discuss and consider approving the Fiesta Invited request for June 30th, 2018, funding in the amount of $5,405.
Would you like to talk about it? Explain.
Excuse me, you need a motion.
We have with us also today, let me see, no, let's
Okay, you need a motion and a discussion. Get me to make a motion.
Okay, sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather right now. I move that we consider approving the Fiesta Rider request for June 30th, 2016 funding in the amount of $5,405.
Okay, there's a second. Okay, motion made in second. Now.
Just a correction on that, it was 2018.
18.
Councilor Rivas, you said 2016.
June 30th.
No, 18. You're under the weather. You're under the weather. We can relate to that. Okay, now we'll have some discussion on this. Is there any discussion?
So here's yes, there is a discussion. So, my understanding of the history of this, it was really a kind of a neighborhood activity to celebrate Independence Day. And it's grown and it's grown and it's grown. And my view is, I think it's a good idea. The question is, as I think about from a community standpoint, why wouldn't we begin to kind of integrate what happens from the 4th of July and what goes on here into one activity? And I think about things like the 4th of July parade. I think about it, this has got a parade and say, start the parade at one location, move it to that. I mean, it's a great opportunity, I think, to pull the community together. So that's my first thought. And I just don't know the history enough behind whether that discussion has ever been started. But that's, in my mind, the first thing I have to do. It'd be nice to get the whole community together. So that's, help me out there, Ramon, in terms of your perspective on that.
And I think at this time, if I can, to rely on Norma to come forth and maybe give a little bit of that history regarding the Fiesta about it.
My name is Norma Olivo, Ward 4, I mean 2. The way it started, it's more like we get people coming in from out of town because we don't really do it and on the actual day. We just do it where the closest to the 4th. And in the Kiwanis, what they do it on the actual day. And sometimes it falls, like this year, it's going to fall in the middle of the week. So, and people like that we do it, the weekend before, or if it falls on a Friday, start Friday, and they come in 2 days before the event and make it a long, they ask for the day off and make it a longer weekend. So that's why, and if I can think back, I think the Kiwanis like to have it on the actual day. So that's why we've always done it, if it falls in the middle of the week or on a Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day. We take the closest we can for that day.
And on the same sentiments as Councilman Stevens, and I've mentioned that several times about incorporating the whole city and make it a one huge parade. And I know there's issues, that dates and whatnot. But I think we should get together with the Kiwanis and try to coordinate something. We need to be inclusive in the city. is the way I
Correct.
look at it.
And I'll say this too, and people have, we brought, that's, you know, we brought it up, and what I've heard is they would like to have something on that side too. You know, it's, you know, and that's what they tell me. You know,
But it's fine to have, still have a celebration there, but the parade itself.
Oh,
is
well,
what we're talking about, like, yes.
the parade itself,
Yeah,
well, there's no
Is to be,
problem with that.
start where y'all start at, because I've been in your parade, a couple of years now. But I think start where you're at and bring it around into town. So you're taking care of both sides of the town. Yes.
There are safety issues with the railroad tracks and the parade.
Okay.
That's a big consideration.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And two, it's like, with Nancy, with Brown Dog, well, it's not Mercado, yes. She was talking about having Fiesta del Sol combined with Fiesta del Barrio, and I told her, you're more than welcome. We can do it that weekend. But then she pulled out of it, and she told me that she was going to do it the weekend after. But to me, I figured, well, there's going to be a lot of people that weekend. Why not do it together? And they have, you know, different. I mean, they can move it around town and not just, you know, I don't know, because she did pull out from it. I don't know why. She said she didn't want to interfere with Fiesta del Barrio. I said there's no interference, you know.
And it's all right in the general vicinity
Right.
too, so it makes it pretty easy.
Right.
Now, I'm not in charge of that, so.
Right. And that's all she told me. So I have mentioned that to her, you know, it's okay. And then the Kiwanis, years before, you know, I had mentioned it, it's fine, but they told me, well, they prefer having it on the actual day. So that's why. But we're open.
Okay, I'm glad you let me know about it. Yes, sir.
One other thought on addressing that, I was gonna bring up this point, that Kiwanis is very important to them, that it's on the 4th, and Fiesta del Barrio, it's always been on the weekend for those reasons. What I'm gonna try and do this year, and I think there's opportunities to grow this, is promote the whole time period from Fiesta del Barrio through the Wednesday as Alpine's 4th of July celebration, because there's a Cowboys baseball going on, there's outdoor theater going on. So what we'll be doing on Visit Alpine is putting the whole menu of everything we can come up with that's happening during that window as the 4th of July celebration for Alpine. And where I think the opportunity would be if we can find folks who want to do complimentary events on the Monday and the Tuesday, then we can really give people a menu that's worth staying for. But even if that doesn't happen, we have so much going on that weekend and then the Wednesday, so I'll be promoting them together regardless.
Where did I get that?
That's an excellent idea.
Any more discussion?
Just another question.
Yes, sir.
So you've heard us talk about hotel occupancy tax funds. We're down this year.
Yes.
Why wasn't there a submittal so we could include this as we consider the whole budget?
The reason was that I got the information kind of late. It was late for me to get all my paperwork done and submit all this. And it was when there was a transition with secretary, or there was a lot going on. And I even called the office and said, I haven't gotten my paperwork. So they told me, okay, well, let me call so-and-so. And she said she was going to send an email. And then I got the package. So that's why my time just ran out. That's why.
Yeah, could you step to the podium, please, sir?
Having never been to the Dick Zimmer from Ward 5. Fiesta del Barrio. Could you tell me what happens at the Fiesta del Barrio that's any different than what happens at the 4th of July. What does that mean to the people that are coming to that? And it sounds like it's a lot of family members coming in to celebrate.
Correct, there is, but now we've attracted more people that they're not just family, you know. They've heard about it, so, and they're from here, and they've made a point to mark it on their calendar for Fiesta del Barrio to get vacation from their work to extend the weekend, since it's the holiday coming.
And that's happening at Medina Park, it looks like.
Correct, yes, sir.
In that area because of the street closure that you're asking for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so you have.
And then we have activities going through the day. We'll have the parade, and then we'll have a washer tournament, and then several dancing clubs that are going to come and perform there. So we have 3 or 4 of them. So
It's becoming more organized.
yes, sir. And I'm sorry I didn't bring my schedule. I don't know.
Do you want a copy of your packet?
Yeah, we got the schedule.
Like at 10 o'clock, we'll have the parade, and then the washer tournament will be going at that time too, and the DJ. That's what's going to be happening at 10 o'clock, and then the opening ceremonies, and then yes, we're going to invite the mayor and the city manager, and then the DJ from Pecos, Ben DeShover, he'll be there to provide us with some music, and then the band from Alturas, from Marfa, they'll be coming and playing for about 2 hours. That's from 12 to 2 o'clock, those events. And then at 4 o'clock, you'll be Matachines. And then at 4:30, Damian Luna, he's from New Mexico. He's a solo guitarist, and he'll play for us. And then we came up with this where I'm included in that. The Chicas del Barrio, every year we put out a dance that we make up, and we dress up and dance for the audience. And then Time Wave, that's a band from here, from Alpine. And then the Majestic Gitanas will be dancing. And then Alturas will come back at 8 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock, the band from Houston. And then I'm trying to extend the time at least till 2 o'clock in the morning, because of Bobby's performance, we're going to be running that late. So that's what we're asking if we can get.
Do you have any problem with, do you think you'll have any problem with parking in that area? Got the creek bed on one side of it.
Right. And yes, we do, but people find a way. They just park on the side of the road, and that has been kind of, they'll just say it was hard to find a parking, but they don't mind walking from wherever they park to 10th Street. So
they could park in the creek bed. I wasn't really clear.
Well, see, one year, and it worked wonderful. You know, we did place the stage right there at the slope of the bridge, the creek, and the stage was right there. And that was the best place for the stage, because we're up high and then they're up low, so it's just right. And we didn't have a problem, but Jesse from Budweiser, the one that donates the stage, he decided not to, because probably, didn't want to be responsible for anything. But like I told him, we wouldn't place it down there if we hadn't had any rain. If it's been real dry, I don't see a problem. But if we've had rains throughout that month or whatever, then we'll see. stage going down the creek and stuff,
Parade.
That's a longer term strategy. I know Kiwanis originally got money from the city from the HUD fund, and now they're on their own. Cinco de Mayo is the same way. How do you see this strategy playing out? Because are there people who sell things there, and money comes in and?
Well, let me say this. When I started this, I just started, everything is so expensive, and even the booths now at parks or Cinco de Mayo or gallery night and all that, it's over $100 for a booth. So I just made this up and said, you know what? I just want people to come and have fun and not worry. If they have some art stuff they want to display or sell, they're welcome. I'm not going to charge anything. And I know, hey, people tell me that I should, but I want them to come and earn a little bit of money of what they do and not have to worry. Well, if I pay $100, am I going to make $100 profit from that, or am I going to break even? So Fiesta del Barrio is just come have fun. I'm not going to charge for the booths, and just come buy a burger or whatever, a piece of art, or and for merchants to come and play.
So, and I appreciate that. You're trying to go with the right heart.
Yes, I know.
And I get that. My worry is,
how long are you gonna?
How long are you gonna rely on the city to go do this?
Right.
Because I guarantee you,
Well,
there will be 50 other local community activities that city gave them $6,000. We want our $6 as well.
Right. But I don't know how long I'm gonna do, much longer, because actually, really, I'm the only one that does it. I have one or two people that kind of pull behind me, but they're never really there. And I don't know how much longer this the Barrio. But like I said, this year, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I probably won't be able to if I don't get Charles' help. But usually, I already start with bake sales, a lot of other stuff, and I know that Hotel Motel would, donate a few dollars, monies, and I would do the rest selling shirts, bake sales, just some bake sales, and more shirts, where I could pay at least for one band, But this year, like I said, I thought I was going to be able to get this Barrio in, so that's why.
So you're not solely asking just for the city to fund stuff, you're also doing something about it.
Right.
To
Right.
make yourself self-sustaining.
Right.
Because, like the councilman said, then all of a sudden we're going to start getting a big influx of different organizations. And, we have, the hotel money. We also got to see a return in the hotel as far as visitors coming into the city to stay. So that we continue to fund projects like that.
Correct.
And my second question, do we have money in the budget?
Well, if you look at the current year's budget, there was some contingency, and at the original council meeting that Mama presented, it was suggested that be used. So we know where we're at right now in the year. It's still early. The events that have taken place, I don't think have used 100% of all of their funds, so there is some funds set aside from that. And then, as Mr. Stevens said, if it does continue, on the same trend, there is some reserve balance that can carry us, but we know we're not going to be able to rely on contingency.
Right. That was one of the concerns in that. But ultimately, it's up to the council and what they choose to do. So
me personally, and looking at the budget and kind of where the expenditures are at right now, I think it's doable to squeeze it in. but if we get 50 other requests, we're not gonna be able to.
Right.
Well, my head is, it's doable. I'm worried about the long-term strategy. And this is your 10th year? That's what your report says.
But the years past, city council, just like all the other activities, they get, you know, we've gotten maybe at the most 2,000. You know, I think last year it was 2,000. All the other years would be 1,000 or whatever, because we have done a lot, you know, like bake sales and T-shirts and all that good stuff.
I understand all that. I appreciate what you're doing, and I think it's exactly the right thing. I just get concerned about long-term, what's the plan? And because I've already gotten questions.
Right.
You shouldn't go for this.
Right.
And the reason, Rick, is it's not because it's not a good fist of the bar, it's not the right thing. Why aren't we doing one thing across the community? And second is, it should have been in the original hotel occupancy tax funds. That's where it should have been presented. And that's kind of where we look at the budget.
Right.
And so it's a hard way to respond to come back and says, yeah, we're going to make a exception because then everyone else looks and says, well, why don't you grant me an exception?
Well, have they ever come up to you or come to the, you know, bring it to the board and say?
We had one 2 weeks ago. We want $19,000 to go put a mural on the wall. We said no.
Right.
So yeah, there are others that come in, and she happens to be a business person in my district.
Right.
So that's the struggle we're running into. And I appreciate that. So I think you're doing exactly the right thing. I think we do more. I'm Native American by heritage.
Right.
I just spent the last weekend with 250 of my tribesmen in Southern California folks on how to help scientists and engineers in the youngsters. And so we put a lot of it's our personal resources we put into it. So.
And like I said, I mean, my paperwork, my email, they came in late. So I even called, you know, I made the call. So thank you.
Yes, sir, Chris.
Well, one other distinguishing factor that Fiesta del Barrio has is that it does have a track record of previous funding. So that is something that if a brand new event comes to the council, there are extenuating circumstances and a track record of previous.
No, I get that. Everyone else got their stuff in.
Any more discussion? So if I hear correctly, in this year, the funding is doable. That's a way. So it seems to me that we need to come to a point of, I guess, approving. So I move that we approve the Fiesta del Barrio request for June 30th, 2015, and the funding of $5,105.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. We've already had some discussion. Any more discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask, can you add which fund you want the money to come from in your motion? Is it hot fund? Is it general fund? Is it?
So there is, if you look at the breakdown on the spreadsheet that she submitted, and the agenda item didn't pick up both of them. It's $5,405 from hot funds, and then the $590.38 is coming out of the general fund, just to put in the outlet, to pay for the material for the outlet up there. So the actual total request is $5,995.38, but it is like.
I was wondering about that, Gina.
That's
Okay, so
Correct your motion, sir.
the correction by in saying, I move that we approve the Fiesta del Barrio request for June 30th, 2018 funding of $5,405 from the hot funds budget and $590.38 from the general funds.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. And any more discussion? Seeing none, then let's go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Okay, let's move over to item 11. And that'll be Councilman Oliva's again.
In order to make the Pentaverse a reality, I move that we discuss and consider approving a temporary street closure request for June 30th, 2018 for South 10th Street between Murphy and Yellow Street and West Avenue F between South 11th and South 10th Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll close Murphy Street, or I'm sorry, 10th Street between
Who
Murphy and
seconded?
Davis.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and then we go over to item number 12, and that's going to be Councilmember Curry.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to discuss and consider approving one animal permit for 2 horses as recommended by the Animal Advisory Board. The horses are located at 4002 Peachtree Circle in Alpine, Texas. The applicant is Riley White.
Okay. Is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion been made with second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Any names for horses?
I don't know the horse's name. Do you know the horse's name?
Okay, more discussion.
What head are they?
I have no idea.
They're not miniatures, they're full size?
I think they're full size horses.
Thanks. Okay, because there's like plenty of space, so I don't.
Okay. So, any more discussion then? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Let's move over to number 13, Councilmember Curry again.
Okay. I want to make a motion to discuss and take action to review and revise the current city traffic plan. I really just wanted to make a plan to be able to revise it and update what's already. This last one was done in 2001. Some of it's been implemented, some of it hasn't. Some of it's a lot of good information in here too. They did a really good job, but I'd like to update it and get a good plan together for street signs and crosswalks and things like that, so that we're all on the same. Everybody's together on the same page to the flow of traffic, or how it needs to be. The roads being done right. That's what I like.
So you put that into motion. Okay.
I would ask that the motion be to authorize, I guess, a request for proposals to update this plan.
Yes. A motion to update.
Okay.
And get proposals to update
Okay.
the plan.
Okay.
And I second that.
Okay, motion been made and second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
So my sense is this would be a great place to kind of pursue the plan to agree to include viable pedestrian crossings. It's an issue across the whole town, not just in one location. So I hope that would be part of the discussion. Because it is rampant across the city.
I agree.
Okay, great. Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on it. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And now we'll get to item 14. So city council comments and answers. And since you've been very active, we'll start with you.
I don't really know what to say. I thought everybody was here. I let the presentations were all really well done. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for coming, and I'd just like to make one comment that I guess a couple of meetings back, Councilor Curry made the suggestion on that, that if anybody would be interested in going on a ride along with members of the animal control group, and I took her up on it. I called them and I got permission to go, and I rode around with a gentleman who was very knowledgeable. I learned a lot, and I learned about the facility, how they take care of animals, whether they're brought in for adoption or they're out to pick pick up a stray animal on the roads. And again, I encourage you. It's a very exciting and at the same time very educational. So recommend that you consider that. Thanks, sir.
I'm glad that you all came and the reports were very good, very good. But we're gonna have this in bio this year, and I hope that you help the section.
That also about the reports are going to normal. You know, you've got a great budget, so my issue is just about how do you manage things going long term. I hope next time, if it comes time for hot funding, you just dive in there, don't let the room get in the way, go get the budget there, because our challenge is just not about the resources. And as your my worry is, I'm worried about dollars this next year. The good news is we got a reserve, but I guarantee you next year we're going to look at some issues because people are starting to slow.
Well, I want to thank you for that, for this year. I appreciate it. Everything y'all do.
I think I want to echo Councilman Lewis's comments too. There are so many things that go on in the city. It's unfortunately we have a bigger audience, but my view is go to court, do the ride-alongs, go talk to the chief, go see the jail, go see all the facilities that we have around here. We have got a lot. And in terms of Sunshine House, unfortunately, I can't do the ride-along. My travel schedule is fast, but there was so much, and I would suggest also bring your kids. And we do a class every Tuesday, 5 periods in the high school, for the high schools. The big discussion room in the high schools right now about their career and their career choices. And it's amazing the number of youngsters that say, I want to be a policeman, or I want to be a doctor. We have 2 of them who want to be veterinarians. And I've asked them, have you ever been in and knocked on Mary Dodson's door that says you want to go be a vet? No. I said, boy, what a great way to find out whether or not you want to be a vet. If you go spend a half hour with Mary or a half day with Mary, and now her son, Mary does the small ones, and her son does the large animals. And I have a daughter who wanted to be a vet at one time, and then I said, Carolyn, go stick your arm down a cow's rear end to pull a calf out. She says, I'm not being a large animal. This is the biggest challenge we face. So out of the roughly 40 students we have, I think there's only 2 who actually know someone that's in the career field of their interests. So we're bringing in mentors in May for all these kids who've actually been in the careers with them, so they can really learn to understand. So to your point, not only do we need to go, we have the kids take them along as well. And I'll talk about them on the radio show on Thursday. It's just such a great opportunity for our youngsters to see what goes on in the real world. So thanks for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you. Great report, City Manager. We needed that structure. I want to thank each and every one of you all for attending today. And guess what? We're actually going to get up at a decent time. I got blamed for the last 2 meetings, so but that's okay. But I want to thank y'all. It's important that y'all do attend these meetings. A lot of what's going on in the city government. As Councilman Stephen, he has his regular talk show. I do an article in a monthly paper, or once a month in the newspaper, to kind of keep folks informed as to what we're doing in the city and whatnot. So I think it's very important that everybody, give some feedback when you go back to your homes, to your neighbors and friends as to what transpires here at City Council. With that said, you all have a great evening.
Yes, I move we adjourn.
Thank you. 1 second. It's not too long.
Later. Take care.